Welcome to a biology lesson. Support and movement in plants and animals. I am Mr. Ilyas Abdi by name. I'm Ilyas Abdi by name. We are all aware of this pandemic, the outbreak of COVID-19 that has seen almost all our learning institutions closed, that left our learners unattended to, and more so to our candidates, to our form force. And therefore, as a teacher, I have been trying on different ways to reach out to my learners. Recently, I have been given lessons through. I've been giving virtual classes through Zoom, and most of the learners raised some genuine concerns, and therefore I have decided to give it another approach. Hopefully, this will of help to us and it will solve our problem. The lesson and the lessons that are to come will be of more benefit to the form force. Form force will be the most beneficial, because I know they are the ones who are to sit for their national exams. For others, we have abundant of time to catch up and probably cover what we are supposed to. In Form 4, in a Form 4 biology, we have, in a Form 4, we have 4 topics. We have genetics. In Form 4, we have evolution. We have reception, response, and coordination. We sometimes call it sensitivity. And then we have support and movement in plants and animals, that we call locomotion. Form 4, we have genetics. Form 4 biology syllabus. We have evolution, we have sensitivity, and we have locomotion. I purposely chose this particular topic, support and movement in plants and animals. This is the last topic on Form 4. I chose it because it is a topic that have got a greater interest to students. This is a topic that can appear in paper 1 as a short answer question. It can also appear in paper 2 as an essay question, and as well in paper 3 as in the practical paper, paper 3. And therefore, and also in a normal school setup, sometimes as teachers, we don't give this topic the weight it requires, because sometimes in a hurry to start revision, sometimes in a hurry to start July mock, we tend to brush over, and therefore those are some of the reasons why I choose this particular topic. And I promise I will cover the remaining topics with you, inshallah. Support and movement in plants and animals will be our lesson today, and I will be starting the introductory part. Our topic is made up of 2 main parts. It's made up of support, as you can see, and also movement. Support and movement in plants and animals. We call the topic locomotion. Locomotion. And this is one of the characteristics of the living organisms that we listed in Form 1. In Form 1 biology, we listed the characteristics of living organisms. Those features that distinguish a living organism from other non-living things. Just to remind you, we have nutrition, we have respiration, gaseous exchange, excretion, reproduction, growth and development, sensitivity, and then locomotion. So this is the last bit we are doing, locomotion. Support and movement in plants and animals is the topic. I will define the important terms. Those are support and movement. What is support? Support is the maintenance of rigid structure and erect position. Maintenance of rigid structure and erect position. This now enables organisms to bear their own weight and maintain their body form. What do we mean by that? All living organisms must enjoy a system that see them having a rigid structure, a system that will make them or will enable them carry their own weight. When I say support, I'm saying support is the maintenance of rigid structure, a firm structure When you have a firm structure, it's when you can be able to maintain erect position, when you can be able to maintain an erect position. For example, as a teacher, I am standing upright like this. Basically, our body is made up of bones, whatever we call endoskeleton. Our body is made up of muscles and other internal organs, and then some fluids. Our body, and generally our shape, is defined and dictated by our bones. Whatever is giving us this form, this shape, is about the rigid structure that we are having. For our case, our rigid structure are the bones. Not only a bone can give a rigid structure. We can have a cartilage giving a rigid structure. We can have sometimes air or fluid giving a rigid structure. So it all depends. So we're saying support is the maintenance of rigid structure and erect position. When you have a rigid structure and erect position now, that will enable the organism to bear and to carry their own weight and maintain their body form. Carrying their own weight means to hold each organ, each part of the body to its position. For example, now our head is kept somewhere up above the other body parts. The head is supported by endoskeleton, by a rigid framework in form of bones. For example, our head is sitting on bones that are found within the neck region. The bones that are found in the neck region are further sitting on other bones that are found in at our back, somewhere in the thoracic region, at the back. Those are sitting on a system of vertebral bones also. And therefore, that now sits on the pelvic girdles, the two pelvic girdles, the two halves, which sits on the femurs. The femur sits on the tibia and the fibula. We have a system of bones that now gives us an ability to carry our own weight. Now we can be able to carry our muscles, we can be able to carry our bones and the fluids within our body due to the rigid structure that has been provided by the bones. Yeah, that's why we can be able to carry our own weight and also maintain our body form, maintain our body shape. What about movement? You see, support and movement are inseparable. Support and locomotion are inseparable. They go hand in hand. We cannot talk about movement without talking support. If the organism is not supported, if the organism does not have a rigid structure that maintains its erect position, a rigid framework that carries its own weight, then there is no movement. That's why now we have support followed by movement and even locomotion. Movement, what is it? Movement is change in position by an organism. An organism changing its position from where it was to a new place. This movement could involve the whole body moving from one part to another. If not, part of the body moving. Part of your body moving as I am doing now with my hands as I am standing. Movement can be categorized into two, namely, we can have localized movement. Localized movement is a type of movement that involves only part of the body. It is only part of the body that moves, and not the whole body. This type of movement is common, it is seen, or it is found in plants. Yes, you will not see a plant as an organism moving. When we talk about plant, we say plant is a living organism whose body is distinctively divided into roots, stem, and leaves. And therefore, you will not see a plant with its roots, stem, and leaves moving from one point to another. No. But you will realize the shoot, the leaves moving toward in a different directions. You will see the fruit growing deep into the soil and even sometimes growing horizontally in search for water and mineral salts. So that type of movement that involves only part of the organism is what we are calling localized movement. We also have locomotion. Locomotion is movement that involves the whole body. It is the whole body now moves. It is seen in animals. This one is common It is found in animals. Animals have the ability to move. They are mobile and therefore can move from one point to another. Let's see movement in plants. Movement in plants. Can plants move? Yes. Can plants move? Let's see. Movement is a characteristic behavior of all living organisms. Yes. We said movement is one of the characteristics of a living organism, and therefore plants being a living organism, they also possess that particular characteristics. Movement is a characteristic behavior, is a characteristic feature of all living organisms, and therefore as a living organism, plants also move, although their type of movement is a localized one. Movement is in response to changes in the environment. We don't just move, not only plants, even animals. When you are to move, there must be something that's making you to change your position from one point to another. Yes, there must be some reasons as to why you are moving from one point to another. Equally, plants don't just move like that. There are some variations in the condition of the environment. When the conditions of the environment vary, when they change, for example, the temperature in the environment changes from low to high, the direction of light changes. Sometimes the intensity of light also may vary. Availability of water in the soil may shift to one particular direction. So those are the changes in the environment I'm talking about. So when there are some changes, when there are some variations in the conditions of the environment, then the plant will feel that. The plant will sense that particular changes in the environment and respond to those changes appropriately by either moving toward the change or moving away from it, depending on whether that particular change is a favorable one. If it is a favorable one, a one that is useful to the plant, then plant will move toward that particular thing. If it is injurious, if the change is a harmful one, then the plant will retreat and move away from it. So we are saying movement in plants is in response to changes in the environment. A change in the environment is what we call stimulus. Stimulus. In singular, and then in plural we say stimuli or stimuli. Call it stimuli. So movement is a response to changes in the environment. In response to changes in the environment. When the environment changes, then that makes the plant, that causes the plant to make some movement. We will see the type of movement. Unlike animals, plants lack locomotive structures. Therefore, movement in plants is in form of growth. That is, they have whatever we are saying, growth movement. What do I mean by locomotive structures? What do I mean by this word, locomotive structures? Yeah? I said unlike animals, plants lack locomotive structures. Locomotive structures are structures that are used for movement. Structures that are used for movement. This could be limbs. Limbs could be structure for movement. Other locomotive structures could be wings for flight. It could be fins for swimming. So plants do not have those locomotive structures that will enable them to move. Because they lack this, we are saying their movement is in form of growth. When a plant is to move, it will do that by growing toward that particular, toward the change, or it will grow away from the source of stimulus. This we are calling that growth movement. I said because they lack locomotive structures, plants do not locomote from one point to another, but they move through growth. Their movement is in form of growth. And therefore we call that growth movement. Plants exhibit a variety of growth movements, depending on the type of stimulus that causes the movement. I said for a plant to move, there must be something that makes it to move. depending on the type now of the stimulus, depending on the type of variation in the condition of the environment that causes this plant to move, then the plant shows variety of growth movements, depending on the type, depending on the nature of the stimulus that is making this particular plant move. Let's see this movement in plants. This one is covered in length and in depth in the topic that we're calling reception, response, and coordination. Reception, response, and coordination. I think you can also take your notes. The notes are clear. You can take your notes. You want to see how plants move and the variety of growth movement exhibited by plants. Although I said that one is covered in length and in depth in reception, response, and coordination, but for understanding this particular topic and having in mind that most of you probably have not covered that particular topic, let me take you through that. Saying a plant exhibits a variety of growth movements depending on the type of stimulus that causes the movement. Depending on the type of stimulus, we can have types of growth movement or types of responses. This growth movement, we call it tropism. This growth movement, we call it tropism. This growth movement in plants is called tropism. So plants can have variety of growth movements, and these are, let me use Roman numbers. We can have phototropism. Plants can have phototropism. That is a type of growth movement in plants. Plants can also have chemotropism. Plants can have hydrotropism. They can as well have haptotropism, also called thigmotropism. And then plants can also have geotropism. Good. What we're saying is that plants, the movement of plant is in form of growth. When they want to move, they will grow toward the stimulus or away from the stimulus, depending whether it is favorable or unfavorable. The variety of growth movements are the phototropism, chemotropism, hydrotropism, thigmotropism, and geotropism. What is it? I will demonstrate one after another. Phototropism, if I may define, I can say phototropism is a growth response, or is a growth band, is a growth response involving part of plant, in response to unidirectional, generally tropism, we say tropism is a growth curvature, tropism is a growth band, tropism is a growth response involving part of plant. It is part of the plant that is growing, that is responding, part of plant. And then that response or that reaction is in response to unidirectional external stimulus. In this particular case, the stimulus, the change in the environment that is causing this particular plant to move, for the case of phototropism, changes in the light intensity or changes in the direction of light. I will demonstrate this using a basic demonstration that you did in your primary science. If you have a potted plant, yes, if you have a potted plant, like this, if you have, a potted plant, you have a potted plant like this. Now what I'm interested is this. Yeah. In your primary science, we have demonstrated such a thing, that we have a young growing plant, and then we subject a unidirectional light. This is light. Yes, this arrow is light. Light. But this light is coming from one specific direction, in such a way that there is only one portion of the shoot that is getting that particular light. And you all understand the importance of light to a plant. Light is required, is the raw material for the process of photosynthesis. The process of photosynthesis requires some basic raw materials like light, water, and carbon dioxide. Light is required in the first stage or in the first phase of photosynthesis, the light stage or the light dependent stage. Light is used to split water molecule into hydrogen ions and oxygen ion and oxygen gas. And therefore, light is an essential material for this particular plant. It therefore wants to have more of this light. Now this light is what I'm saying now, change in the environment. Now this is a stimulus. This is a stimulus. Light now is a stimulus in this particular case. Therefore, plants require light. So this light now is favorable. If it is favorable, plant will tend to move toward the source of light. The movement by plant, we said their movement is in form of growth. And therefore, this plant will grow, it will curve, it will bend toward the source of light. After 48 hours, our shoot will look like something like this. Yes, after 48 hours, our shoot will have such a thing. After 48 hours, your observation will be the shoot will bend. The shoot will grow toward the source of light. This is now a growth. This is a growth. This is a movement. The shoot of a plant moving, growing toward where the light is coming from. This is now an example of growth movement in plants. This is an example of growth movement of plants. The movement is, the response is tropism. I'm saying the response is tropism. But what is the specific, or what is the specific type or the kind of stimulus that is evoking or eliciting this particular response? Is it light? Yes, it is light that is making this plant to bend and grow that particular light, and therefore it gets its name from the word light, and therefore say it phototropism. Call it phototropism. Photolight and then tropism is that growth bend involving part of plant in response to your directional variation in light intensity. Something like that. Okay, that's about now chemotropism. Plant can also move. There is another growth movement involved. There is another growth movement. Chemotropism. Chemotropism. When we are defining, we just change the last word. We say chemotropism is a growth response also. Is a growth movement. That growth movement involves part of plant, but it is in response to the directional variation in chemical concentration. Where is such growth movement observed in plants? Where is it seen? It is seen in the growth of or the development or germination of a pollen tube. When you have been doing reproduction in plants, specifically double fertilization, you must have came across such a thing. Good. Where here we have the stigma, we have the style, and therefore ovary, and this is the embryo sac. That's the embryo sac. This is the embryo sac. The embryo sac, and this is the ovary. Yes. Good. So during fertilization involves the fusion of male and female gamete. The male gamete in this particular case are pollen grains that are deposited on the stigma during pollination. They are deposited on the stigma during pollination, and then the female gamete is the female egg that is found here in the embryo sac. The female gamete is found in the embryo sac, and then the pollen grain that is to fertilize, that is to fuse with this egg, is found there. Then how is this pollen grain brought to the embryo sac? And then I say there is development of a pollen tube. There is germination of pollen tube. Yes. There is development. There is a pollen tube that germinates and develops downward. It moves until it enters the embryo sac. It bursts the embryo sac, and then the pollen tube carries the generative nucleus. That is in simpler terms, it carries the pollen grain. Then it develops downward until it delivers the pollen grains or the generative nucleus. That the generative nuclei, because they are one, they divide in the process into the embryo sac. Now, a student may ask, what is that thing that is stimulating, making the pollen tube to develop downward until it reaches the embryo sac? What is that? Yes, that is making it. And therefore, we are saying the embryo sac produces some chemical substance. Those chemical substances are the ones that are stimulating this pollen tube to grow. And therefore, we are saying this now development of pollen tube, the growth or the movement, the downward movement of pollen tube is in response to a chemical substance produced by the embryo sac. Yes? Now this movement, we call it now chemotrophism. Trophism is the growth movement, and then chemo is the particular stimulus that is evoking or that is responsible for this particular growth, and that is a chemical substance produced by the embryo sac. What about hydrotrophism? Hydrotrophism. Let's define. By defining, we just use this definition but change the last one, because in this particular case, the type of stimulus is different from light. Hydrotrophism is a growth curvature, or it is a growth bend involving part of plant in response to unidirectional violation of water availability. It's about now whatever is varying, whatever is changing is availability of water. Is the availability of water. In this particular case, this one is seen in the roots of a plant, because we all know that roots are the ones that are responsible. Yeah, that's at the ground level. Good. These are the roots. Roots, the primary problem of roots is to absorb water and mineral salts for the plant. Therefore, if we have water at some point near the roots of a plant, in an attempt to absorb water for the plant, they are always searching for water, and therefore what these roots will do is that they will grow. Yes, they will grow toward where water is available, and you will see the plant directing all its roots. You will see the plant directing all its roots to the source of water. You see now, roots are part of plants. In most cases, below the ground surface. That's what we define by roots. And therefore, you see now roots moving partially. The roots move toward the source of water. This is called now hydrotrophism. The type of stimulus that is causing these particular roots to move, to grow, is water. And therefore, the name hydro comes from the type of stimulus that causes this particular thing. Sometimes, if I give you a good example that some of you might know, is that at your homes, at some homes we have got, there is a need to reserve some water for future use, and therefore we store our water in an underground tanks, And then sometimes we may also have planted trees within our homestead or within our compound. You will realize I've seen some people complaining about the damage caused to their water tanks, to their underground water tanks, by the roots of those particular plants. Because all plants that are found around that particular tank will channel, they will direct their roots into that particular tank, depending on, into that particular tank in an effort to absorb more water. And therefore, eventually they will end up breaking even the tank, depending on whether the roots are that much powerful. So this is called now hydrotrophism. What about thigmotrophism? Or habitotrophism? The definition is the same. We change the last bit. Is a growth response or is a growth curvature involving part of plant in response to unidirectional touch or in response to unidirectional contact. This is seen in weak plants. That cannot support their own weight unless they get mechanical support from the strong ones. For example, if this one is a strong plant, then we can have something like this. Yeah. This is the weak plant. That's the weak plant. So you can see the weak plant moving around, growing around the strong one in order to obtain and to seek strong or mechanical support from this particular plant. So we will do more of this, but when we are talking about haptotrophism is such a thing, because when the weak plant touches the strong one, involves lateral migration of auxin from the part in contact to the outer part. That lateral migration of auxin from the part in contact to the outer part now will cause now the one part of the plant to experience more cell division, more cell elongation, and more growth. Meaning one part will grow more than the other part, and therefore plants tend to coil, grows around, it moves, and yeah, that is it. What about geotrophism? Geotrophism is a growth curvature involving part of plant in response to unidirectional gravitational force. This is in response to gravity. This one is a response to gravity. You all know the gravity force of gravity that pulls everything toward the center of the earth. And therefore, plants are also, they do movement because of also this. The roots, for example, we say are geotropic, are positively geotropic in such a way that they obey the law of gravity that pulls everything toward the center of the earth, and they grow deep into the soil. The shoot of the plant, we say, are negatively geotropic. They disobey the law and they move upward toward the sunlight in order to maximize light absorption. So basically, these are the variety of growth movements that plants can have. Don't say plants can't move. They can move in these various ways, depending on the type, depending on the variation in the condition of the environment, whatever I'm calling into bracket stimulus. Depending on the type of stimulus, plants can show this wide range of growth. Good. From here, let's move to necessity for support of plants. I mean, why plants need to move. Why plants need to move? Yes, let's do just the basic things. Yeah, if we have seen the different growth movements that plants have or plants exhibit, then why do they have to move? Necessity for movement of plants. Necessity for movement of plants. Why? your plants need to move. Is it really important? Let's see. And then we will answer this using the variety of growth movements that plants have. The ones I just rubbed on this side, we talked of phototropism, we talked of chemotropism, we talked of hydrotropism, we talked of haptotropism, and then we talked of geotropism. Now, all these are growth movements in plants. And then we will ask ourselves, phototropism is a movement in plants that enable the shoot to grow toward the source of light. So, what is the essence? What is the importance of that for the plant? Chemotropism. What is the importance of a pollen tube developing or germinating toward the embryo sac? Yes? Hydrotropism. What is the importance of plant moving its roots toward a source of water? Something like that. One by one. Let's see the first one. Phototropism. What is the importance? And then we're saying phototropism exposes the leaves in a position. Phototropism exposes the leaves of a plant in a position to maximize light absorption. To maximize light absorption. Light absorption for photosynthesis, of course. For photosynthesis. Yeah, that is the importance. This is why phototropism is necessary for a plant. Phototropism exposes, and you have seen that particular thing that we have demonstrated, the shoot and the leaves will move toward the source of light. That will enable them now to maximize light absorption to enable efficiency and effectiveness in the process of photosynthesis. 2. What is the importance of chemotropism? Chemotropism enables development of pollen tube. To facilitate fertilization. Yes. Number 3, importance of hydrotropism. Hydrotropism enables the roots of plants to seek water. Number 4, what is the importance of haptotropism? Good. That one, haptotropism, enables weak plants that have easily crushable stem, weak plants that cannot support their own weight, to seek mechanical support from strong ones. Yes. Haptotropism enable weak plants to seek mechanical support. From strong ones. Yeah. Good. And lastly, geotropism. What is the importance of geotropism? Good. Geotropism enables roots of plants to grow deep into the soil offering firm anchorage to the plant. Yeah. This is basically why we have, this is the necessity for movement of plants. Yeah. Phototropism exposing the shoot of a plant to the light in order to maximize light absorption, to enhance photosynthesis. Chemotropism makes possible for the growth and development, the germination of pollen tube toward the embryo sac, enabling the generative nucleus to meet the egg or the female egg or the female gamete in the embryo sac, enabling fertilization. Yes, hydrotropism, something like that. This is basically necessity for movement of plants. Also, let's see, necessity for support of plants. Necessity for support of plants. Let me capture the subtopic with a different pen. Necessity for support of plants. Necessity for support of plants. Plants also enjoy support. They have a rigid framework that ensures their erect position, that enable plants to carry their own weight, that also ensures that they maintain their body form and body shape. So, necessity for support of plants. 1. To enable, when a plant is well supported, then that will enable the plant to carry its own weight. To enable plants carry their own weight. Enable plants carry their own weight and the weight of climbing animals. And the weight of climbing animals. Weight of climbing animals. Why am I saying climbing animals? Kwanza, what is this that you are saying their own weight? Of course, plants have their own weight to support. The leaves, we have seen thousands and even hundreds of thousands, or sometimes depending on the type of plant. I've seen the large number of leaves that are attached to a plant. I've seen the nature of the big branches that a plant needs to support. The weight of the fruits, the weight of the flowers, they also have some weight, although negligible. And therefore, plants have to support their own weight. Sometimes you have seen there are some weak plants that cannot support their own weight. They just develop 2 to 3 leaves, and therefore that alone is enough to make them collapse. Look. Yes. Sometimes we can have such a plant. Yes. Now what do we say? What do we say? Such a plant, instead of growing upright, supporting the weight of the plant, maintaining an erect position and growing upright, it is looking down. So we're saying this one, it is lacking support. It is not well supported, and that is why it cannot be able to bear and carry its own weight. Yes. Therefore, for those other plants, the woody ones that are enjoying some kind of support, then we're saying the importance of support is to enable plants to carry their own weight and the weight of climbing animals. We all know that some plants are homes for many animals like birds, baboons, and the monkeys. They stay on trees. Sometimes even some kids, when they are playing at home, one of the ways that they can play could be now even jumping into the plant and climbing the plant. And sometimes when they are playing hide and seek game and in their own entertaining way. And therefore, when they sometimes even they want to enjoy, the plants will not only enjoy support, will not only have some strength, but they are also flexible. Sometimes when these small children go on top of a tree and they sit on a given branch, the branch will not break because it is supported, it is strong. Not only that, it is also flexible in a such a way that it can swing from one side to another. And that is the kind of comfort that those children want to derive from the plant. The other point, to enable plants carry their own weight, yes. Plants also, support exposes fruits and flowers to their agents of dispersal and pollination. to the agents of dispersal and pollination respectively. Respectively, this one is important. Yes. Plants, when they are well supported, they can be able to grow upright and therefore expose their flowers and leaves to those animals that help, to the agents that will help disperse the seeds and fruits away from the parent plant, that will help in pollination, transfer of pollen grain from under to the stigma. And for that pollination or dispersal to occur, the agents of pollination and dispersal must notice and see that there's flower there, so that they can be able to move. So the flowers and fruits are held up in the area, in an area position by the support that the plant have. So support exposes fruits and flowers to the agents of dispersal and pollination respectively. Yes, pollination is exposed to agents of pollination. Those are the honeybees, some sandbirds and the likes. Dispersal, some animals. Yes, good. Number 3, support. Support also exposes, is the one we have said. Support also exposes the shoot of a plant in a position to maximize light absorption. In a position to maximize light absorption photosynthesis. Yes. Support also exposes the shoot of a plant in position to maximize light absorption for photosynthesis. You see now this plant, because it lacks support, it cannot bear its own weight. It cannot support the weight of the leaves, and therefore the leaves are looking downward. They are not getting direct sunlight, and therefore there is insufficient sunlight, and this particular plant, it can carry photosynthesis to some extent, but not an efficient one, due to insufficient supply of light energy. Good. The last one, this is to resist breakage due to support enables plants to resist breakage due to environmental forces. Due to environmental forces, e.g., what are some of the environmental forces that can make plants to break or even collapse? These are the gravitational force. It could be air current, yes. Air current, storms. Good. It could be air current. Sometimes a strong wind may blow over a plant. If the plant is not being supported, then it can break and even collapse due to that air or that moving wind. So this is the necessity for movement in plants. We have listed around 5 of them. The necessity for support of plants. There could be others that you can add on. Let's move very briefly, before we conclude our lesson, very briefly, let's also see necessity for movement of animals, and then we also see necessity for support of animals, and then we will end our lesson. Good. Just like plants, animals also do move. They do move, but you want to see why. Yes. Why do they have to move? They need support just like animals, just like plants. Why also? Good. Necessity, and then I will change here. Necessity for movement of animals. Necessity for movement of animals. Why do animals need to move? 1, very fast. As heterotrophs, animals move in search for food. Yeah? Heterotrophs are organisms that cannot manufacture their own food and rely on ready-made food by the autotrophs, by the plants. Because now animals cannot make their own food, so they will need to move from one point to another in order to look for food. That example of students moving from a classroom during break time or lunchtime to the cafeteria or to the dining hall in search for something to buy. 2. Yes, animals move to look for mates and breeding sites. To look for mates and breeding sites. Yeah, looking for mates and suitable breeding sites is also one of the reasons that can make an organism or an animal to move. Yeah, sometimes you will see someone flying all the way from one city or to another city, from one country to another country, from one continent to another continent to probably look for a mate. And then some organisms also look for breeding sites. When they finally find their mate, they will need to look for a breeding sites where they can lay their eggs or something like that. For example, crocodile is an animal that lives in water, but it sometimes comes to the river bank. When it comes to the river banks, it basks in the sun, and then sometimes it goes back to the water. So when crocodile wants to lay its egg, it looks for a breeding site, a suitable place to lay its eggs, and therefore it comes out of the water, and then toward the edge of the river, it digs a hole, lays its egg there, and then buries until the hatching day, something like that. Number 3, animals move in order to keep off adverse conditions, to move away from adverse environmental conditions, adverse conditions, animals move to keep off adverse conditions and to look for favorable conditions, to look for favorable conditions. Yeah. If the environment is hostile, unfriendly, harmful, injurious, deadly one, then you cannot keep on staying in that particular place. You will have to change your position. So animals as well, they keep off or they move away from adverse environmental conditions to probably look for a better one, for a favorable conditions. Number 4, to move away from predators. Yeah, an example, if a gazelle sees a lion approaching, of course it will need to move swiftly, not just to move, it needs to move swiftly in order to avoid. Good. Let's see now necessity for support. We are concluding our lesson for today. Necessity for support of animals. Yes. Necessity for support of animals. Why do animals need support? Good. 1. Saying support enables animals to move properly. That is, well-supported bodies move faster. Bodies that are supported well move faster than poorly supported ones. I said when I was starting the class, locomotion or movement and support are 2 inseparable things. They cannot be separated. You cannot move without having a proper support, a rigid framework. Because it is support that holds us off the ground. It is support that is carrying our weight. And therefore, support enable animals to move properly
i.e. well-supported bodies move faster than poorly supported ones. For example, movement occurs as a result of interaction between the kind of support between the endoskeleton we have and the body muscles. For example, if I want to move my hand like this, if I want to move my hand, yes, this is a movement itself. If I want to move my hand, the movement is taken at this particular point. And therefore, saying this movement is an interaction between, is an interplay between the muscles that are on my hand, that is the skeletal muscles, and the bones. During movement, the skeletal muscles contract and relax antagonistically. During their contraction and relaxation, the muscles will pull this particular bone at this particular point, and then movement will occur at this joint, something like that. Therefore, we are saying we cannot talk about movement or locomotion without talking support. A good example is that one of a crocodile and that one of a cheetah. A crocodile can swim well in water, but when it comes to the river bank, moving will be a problem because it has a big body, it has got a very big belly, a very big stomach that is not supported by strong legs. It has got undeveloped, small, flexible, and you see, yes, very weak legs. And therefore, when it wants to move, you will see the weight of the body will literally shift from one side to another, and you will see the crocodile moving in a funny way, and the movement is not too fast. That is contrary to the cheetah that has got a small body, and the weight of the body are supported by 4 strong legs. Those legs could comfortably carry and support the weight of the cheetah, and therefore enable it to locomote, enable it to move faster. Good. Necessity for support in plants? Yes. Support offers a surface for muscle and organ attachment. A surface for muscle and organ attachment. An organ attachment. We have got muscles and we have body organs. Our organs and muscles are not just hanging like that. They are supported, yes, they are attached to our endoskeleton. They are attached to our bones. They are attached to our supportive structures. That's why I say support offers a service for muscle and organ attachment. Number 3, support or supportive structures. Supportive structures provide protection. Provide protection to the delicate body parts. Yes. Some of the supportive structures within our body, the bones within our body will sometimes provide support, sometimes provide protection to the delicate body organs. For example, some of the supportive structures we have is the skull. Yes, the skull, also called the cranium, provides support to the brain. Yes, brain is a delicate nervous organ that needs some kind of protection. That one now is provided by a supportive structure that we call skull. Good. Vertebral column. Vertebral column is another supportive structure that runs right at the end of the head up to the tail. It is called the vertebral column. That bone now also provides support to the spinal cord. Another nervous organ to the spinal cord. What about the hips and the sternum? The hips and sternum here is another supportive structure. Hips and sternum. Hips and sternum provide protection to the lungs. They provide protection to the heart. They provide protection to the lungs. Yeah. The hips and sternum. You see, the hip cage protects and provides some kind of protection to the lungs. That's why we say the heart is found within the chest cavity in between the 2 lungs, and therefore it is protected by the ribs and so on. So that's why they say supportive structures provide protection to the delicate body parts. That is, for example, the skull or the cranium provides protection to the brain, vertebral column, the bone, the backbone, that is, provide protection to the spinal cord, the hips. These are the bones, the hips. And then we have got sternum. Sternum is this bone that mediates the bones from this side and from this side. Sometimes, because of the position it is found, we call it the breastbone. It is called the breastbone because it appears somewhere between the two breasts. Let's call it the sternum. So this bone that we call it the sternum and the hips provide protection to the heart and the lung. So basically, I'm not saying this is all. We will discuss more of the importance of support in animals when we are talking about the importance of endoskeleton, the importance of endoskeleton. So we can have this as an example. So I will beg to stop the lesson here. I know this is the first lesson. More will come. I choose this topic because it involves a lot of practicals. The topic involves a lot of practicals. In fact, in our next lesson, we'll be discussing support in plants. How do plants obtain support? Yes? How do plants obtain support? Then in that we will divide plants into woody and non-woody plants and discuss how each one of them attain support, and then we will move to support in animals. That will take that will take us to the rest of the topic. It needs more time, it needs more concentration from your side, and we will do that. I will also avail the human skeleton or all the necessary materials required for our practical sessions. I beg to stop here. You can watch this video. Hope you will find it important, so you will find it useful. Pray for us, pray for me, inshallah, pray for the nation. Stay home, keep safe. God keep us safe. Let's pray for our country. Thank you all.